The Green Bay Packers 2021 schedule breakdown is here. I'm your host, Dalton Miller, joined as always by my co-host, Ian Cummings. And we're going to get right into it once again. We have the Kansas City Chiefs playing a football team, and that being the most difficult game on that football team's schedule. Do you agree with this, Ian? And what could you possibly disagree for?
Yeah, I think we talked about it. The Chiefs are one of those top teams in
Chiefs
the
and
NFL.
the Bucks, baby.
Chiefs and the Bucks. I mean, almost everyone. If you play the Bucks, they're going to be the toughest one. If you play the Chiefs, they're usually going to be the toughest one. Now, I do have to say they have a few other teams that could also qualify on their schedule. I think the most notable one being Week 16, the Cleveland Browns. That's another team that we've talked about, kind of in the same tier as the Chiefs, one of those teams in the AFC where we're looking at them maybe challenging for that conference championship this coming year after they got so close last year. You look at the Browns, their roster is, I think, better than the Chiefs, honestly. And both of those teams are kind of like at wide receiver. They can both have a little bit more. But honestly, the game is facilitated in the trenches. They're both very good there. The Chiefs improved dramatically, but the Browns were very good last year. They're still very good. So those are two teams that I'm looking at, teams that are kind of the class of the schedule for the Packers. And if the Packers have Aaron Rodgers, those are the teams that are going to give them the toughest fights. If they have Jordan Love, those are going to be the toughest fights for a young up-and-coming quarterback who's trying to take his lumps and grow in the NFL.
For me, it's definitely the Chiefs in Week 9. If not, I agree with you. It's the Browns in Week 16. Now, before we get into games we got to watch or anything, I just want to ask, what is your expectation for this football team? I assume we think conference championship or Super Bowl type of talent with Aaron Rodgers. What if they don't have Aaron Rodgers? If it's Jordan Love or Blake Bortles, what can you realistically expect from this football team?
Yeah, that's an interesting question because last year, I don't think the Packers team, it's a good team, right? But I don't think they were as good as their record reflected, as their performance with Aaron Rodgers reflected. I think that MVP Aaron Rodgers really elevated that team last year. And if you don't have him this year, if you have year 2 Jordan Love, that really changes the outlook of your season, honestly. I think that they added Amari Rodgers on the offensive side of the ball. I think they still have a decent offensive line, even if there is a little bit of uncertainty there. Defensively, they have a lot of talent on that front seven. We talked about Za'Darius Smith, Kenny Clark, Preston Smith. But linebackers-wise, I don't think it's a particularly strong unit. In the secondary, they have 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗟𝗢𝗓, they have Darnell Savage, they have Adrian Amos, okay? But the corner room is a little bit outside of 𝗙𝗢𝗟𝗟𝗢𝗓 could improve there. But I think it's a decent defense and a decent offense. Robert Tonyan at tight end too. He's a good big play threat. The problem is Aaron Rodgers tied it all together. Okay, and if he's not there, it's a big deal for them. And also Eric Stokes, I forgot to mention him, first rounder this past year. He's a talented guy. I think he might need some time to get some seasoning in the NFL, but he is a talented guy who could ultimately complete that duo with Jair. The problem is this team might need some time. And I think the only way you're competing right away is if Aaron Rodgers is your guy. I think with Aaron Rodgers, it's just a given. You're going to compete. But if he's not there, that changes everything.
Yeah, I agree. And I agree with you about Eric Stokes as well. I think you kept Kevin King around for a reason. Kevin King, obviously, a lot of people believe the reason that they were not in the Super Bowl this year. But Kevin King, for the most part, has been a good corner when he's been healthy in the NFL. It's can he stay healthy and can he play consistently has always kind of been Kevin King's issue. Eric Stokes, very much a guy that is incredibly fast, somebody who I think needs a little bit, like you said, seasoning at the NFL level. For me, a game that I'm going to sit down and say I need to watch this one, for me, is going to be the Ravens in Week 15. I know that we could talk about the Chiefs and the Browns if we wanted to, but I think going and playing in Baltimore, these are two cold weather type of teams. It'll be cold in that game, 1 o'clock. I'm very interested to see this defense in Green Bay go up against Lamar Jackson in that offense.
Yeah, that's a good one. That's a very good one. I think you have to look at that. And for whatever quarterback plays, honestly, that's an interesting storyline. If it's Jordan Love, you have a very, very pressing challenge for Love in that secondary. Probably one of the best secondaries in the league, honestly. If it's Aaron Rodgers, then hey, he meets his match, right? Can he produce against it? I mean, if he's in the same form as last year, definitely can. I also want to look at the Rams too. That's one of those teams, and you look at kind of the storylines for this one. We look at Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur, two guys that come from the same tree, two guys that are like they kind of got brought up in a similar way. Now, a few years removed from being hired as head coaches, both of them have almost gone the distance in the playoffs, but haven't quite gotten to the pinnacle yet. Seeing them match up at this point in their respective career arcs, I think is going to be very interesting too, especially for LaFleur if he has to deal with that quarterback controversy. If Rodgers isn't available, what do you do then? How do you match up against McVay and Matt Stafford? Very excited to see that one. And they also have the secondary to press the Packers, so that's nice.
And what do you think is the defining game of the Packers season? Or is it just simply at the Saints, is Aaron Rodgers your quarterback for that game or not? Like that I mean, honestly, is he showing up for week one is probably the defining moment of the season. I mean, we'll know because he'll be at practice and everything before that. It would be hilarious if he did just show up like the Friday before week one. But I do think that first Saints game is going to be big because you're going to see a defense that has guys at safety. They have pass rushers, Za'Darius Smith, Preston Smith, to get after whoever is playing quarterback for the Saints. I think coming out strong and winning that game is going to be big, not just for the Saints to see how they are going to be this year, but to see if that turmoil within the Packers organization is actually going to hamper them at all or not.
Yeah, for sure. And I mean, we talk about, like, honestly, if we're talking about like storylines that carry through the remainder of the season, who the quarterback is going to be, right? That you find that out right in week one. And though it would add to the Aaron Rodgers legend if he just showed up on a Friday and it's like, yeah, I'm going to play. I'm good enough. I can do it. I don't think, like, we'll know, like you said, we'll know long before then if he's going to be the quarterback. So that is a defining one. If he's not there, how does Jordan Love fare in his first game and how does he rebound from that? That'll be a nice foundational piece of the entire season. If Aaron Rodgers is the quarterback, I think you have to look to some of the later games because the Packers will be in that playoff conversation. It's just going to be a matter of where they are. You look at the Buccaneers. We were talking about the Buccaneers when we were doing their video. The AFC is stacked, but the NFC, there's really no other candidates for that one seed beside the Buccaneers. But if Aaron Rodgers is still the quarterback for the Packers, if he's playing the way he was last year, then there's a very real chance that he could try to challenge them for that. So looking at those later season games like the Ravens, the Browns, it could have some solid implications for that. And if you're looking at maybe intra-divisional standoffs, maybe the Vikings too. They play the Vikings twice from week 11 to week 17. I don't think the Vikings are quite at that level to challenge the Packers if Rodgers is there. But if Love is there, it's going to be very interesting because the Vikings might have a chance to kind of take the division, and it would be a lot of it'd be a little ugly, I think, but it makes for interesting storylines and probabilities at the very least. So I think you have to look to that third, fourth quarter of the season stretch for those defining games, depending on who the quarterback is.
I agree with you. It's going to be super interesting. The Packers, in my opinion, are kind of the biggest storyline in the NFL right now. I think that Aaron Rodgers probably does come back and plays for them, but he's a different type of dude, man, and he's made a ton of money in the NFL. Packers fans, let us know in the comments what you think the toughest game of the season is. Let us know what you think the defining game and that one game. You're a cheesehead, so you're going to watch every football game. I understand that. But if there's one game that you're circling on the schedule over any else, let us know in the comments what it is.